Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the Thule WingBar Edge roof rack and see how it interacts with our 2024 Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. And if you watch this video and you decide this is the roof rack for you, you go ahead and you get it and you use it a few times, go ahead and leave what you think of it in the comments below. We'd love to share your story with our other neighbors so they can make the best decision for themselves. Now, a roof rack is an excellent way to carry that extra cargo with you when you're going on a trip or an adventure. While the Grand Cherokee 4xe does have a lot of room and a lot of cargo space in the back, you could have, all the seats filled with passengers, all their luggage in the back, and you might have a few things that you don't necessarily want riding with you in the vehicle, or they're just too bulky to do so. That's where a roof rack can come in really, really handy to carry that extra cargo. The roof is an excellent place to keep everything up and out of the way. Another option you would have would be hitch-mounted cargo. However, that can take up a little bit. It can be a little more cumbersome because you got to park places, get in and out of spots, and you've always got to be conscious of that back there. Plus, it has a tendency to block your rear view camera, tail lights, and license plate, which depending on the state you're driving through is a no-no. Keeping everything up here on the roof and out of the way is really a great way to do it. And as far as this roof rack from Thule, it is a flush-mounted roof rack, which means that the bars don't overhang past the towers. A lot of people like that because it does offer a little bit more of a clean look. It is what's called an arrow-shaped bar, which means it's going to be wider in the front with a blade shape to the back. That is going to allow for a lot less road noise when you're driving at higher speeds, much less than a square bar or a round bar. It's also going to have a 165-pound weight capacity. However, you always want to double check your owner's manual and make sure what the roof capacity is for your vehicle. Whichever is lower, that's the number you're allowed to carry. It can be clamp mounted for your accessories, or it also has a T-track that you can use for your accessories as well. To access that, you would simply unlock our tower cover, and we're going to use this split weather stripping here in order to mount those T-track accessories before tightening them down and replacing our cover. Now, you may notice that I open and close this with a screwdriver, and that doesn't seem all that secure. This is how it will come out of the box. However, Thule offers what they call a one-key system. You can change all of these out for metal locks that can be key-alike even to your other Thule accessories. Now that we've gone over a couple of the features of these bars, why don't we get up on the roof with a tape measure and see just how it fits our vehicle. Now, as you can see up here, one of the big concerns that people have when we're talking about roof racks is if they have an operational sunroof, how will that affect it? Will it still work? Well, we've got it completely open here right now, and as you can see, we've really got no interference with the bars whatsoever. In fact, from the top of the open sunroof to the bottom of the bar, we're at 2 3/8 inches. That should be enough for any clamp-mounted systems to go around. However, there are some accessories that would go up here with bulkier clamps, and if that's the case, you may just want to consider closing the sunroof. And if you have the sunroof closed, we're going to get us a measurement here of just over 4 inches underneath the bar. It should be more than enough room for any of those clamped accessories to be able to fit on here. And this has fixed mounting points attached to your raised rail here. So the crossbar spread isn't really all that adjustable, but with the fixed mounting points, we're going to end up with a crossbar spread here of about 25 inches. Now that's center of the track to the center of the track. Now 25 inches, I'll have to admit, is a little bit limiting as far as some of the different accessories you could put up here. So pay attention to your accessories and the minimal crossbar spread to make sure that we're going to be in a good place. Now, there are 3 mounting points up here on the roof. We are mounting them on the front 2 points. There is a third set of mounting points back here. Generally speaking, those are mostly going to be used when you're doing a platform rack system. When you're using crossbars, it is suggested that you use these front mounting positions. Now, one more thing that we want to tackle, and that would be just how much extra height this is going to add to your roof. And that is going to be right at 5 1/4 inches off of the roof itself, or 4 inches off of the rail itself. The last thing I want to talk about though is how much bar space you actually have. This is one of the things about having a set that it doesn't overhang is you're going to have a set amount of usable bar space. And in our case, it's going to be 33 inches. So just whatever the width of your accessories, the width of the bars needs to be able to handle that. And it also needs to be handled that 25-inch crossbar spread. Now that we've taken a look at some of those measurements and how it fits, and we've taken a look at some of the features, let's take a look at just how easy these were to install. So to begin our installation, the first thing we're going to do is prep our rails up on the roof. Now there are 3 sets of mounting points up here. We have these that are kind of foremost to the front, and as you can see, there's these little plugs that we're going to have to remove in order to get our brackets on. So I'm just going to take a little flathead here and just kind of work those out, pop them out. All right, with those removed, we'll go ahead and grab our brackets. And we're going to make sure that this portion is overlapping our rail. So we're going to go ahead and put it up against the bolt holes here. Grab one of our bolts. And I'm just going to hand thread this in to start it. Now I'm leaving them a little loose. The holes in the bracket are ovular, so they can be manipulated forward and back. I'm going to go ahead and get them as far forward as possible because that's going to create the best crossbar spread for us. So for the front bar, I'm moving them forward. For the back bar, I moved them all the way to the back. That's just going to give us a little bit extra of a crossbar spread and might make our roof rack a bit more useful. So once I've got it all the way in, I'm going to go ahead and take the provided key and we're going to get them nice and tight. So for the next part of our installation, what we are going to do is get our towers assembled. Now, one of the great things about Thule is when it comes to putting these together, they do a great job of labeling the parts and labeling them kind of in order of when you need to put them on. So what we can see here is we've got 1/2 of our bracket here labeled A, our foot pad is labeled B, and the second part of our bracket is labeled C. So what we're going to do is take part A, and it's also important to note that generally speaking, you want that facing toward you whenever you're placing it in. So we're going to put it in just like this, just like so. Next, we're going to take our foot pad here. We're going to make sure that this portion is on the outside of this, and we're going to go ahead and get that put in place as well. Let's get it on there nice and snug. Then once we have that on, we're going to take part C. Now part C, we're going to loop over this little ledge right here. So we'll thread that through there and then over the bolt hole. Then we're going to take this piece here, which is kind of acts as a tightening nut. And we're just going to thread that on real loosely just so it catches and our tower brackets don't fall apart. And that is it for our tower assembly. As you can see here, it creates kind of a claw that's going to grab onto the brackets we just installed on the roof. So we've got both of our towers assembled. They assemble the exact same way. And now we're going to get them attached to our crossbar. So I'm going to take this side here. Now this wider side of the tower is going to be facing toward the rear, which would mean this blade end here, the wider portion of the bar, will be in the front. So I'm just going to feed this through. So once you get it fed through, you're going to get stopped by this little kind of square portion here. So what we need to do is depress that and slide it in, and it's going to pop up out of this hole right here. If you have a little trouble getting that down in there, go ahead and use that flathead to help push it in. And then it clicks right into place just like that. And now it's attached to our tower. So we're going to do the same process on the other side. Now the last step, now that we've got our towers attached, will be to put on our weather stripping. But before we do that, I just kind of wanted to show you here on the tower. You'll see these hashes labeled A all the way through U. This is generally to help make sure that our bar is going to be even when we put it up on the top. So we've already installed the back bar, and that one I could tell you is going to be between the G and the H. Once we get our front bar up there, we can use those to determine how even our crossbar is and just make sure it's proportionate to each side. Now, before we get the crossbar up on the roof, we have to add our weather stripping. So we're just going to take this piece and we're going to split it. This portion here that shows the little arrows will be on the front or the wider end of the bar. This piece here is going to go through the back. And if you get mixed up, the channels on the back of these, you can see this one's a split channel, this one's a single, split channel, single. That's going to help you out making sure you get them in the right spot. But they are made just a hair longer than the bar itself. So go ahead and give it a little bit of slack on each end, and we're just going to press it down into place. And now that that portion of the weather stripping's in place, we're going to go ahead and put in the front portion. It's going to go in the same way. And we'll just press that in all the way across. Now that we've got our weather stripping in place, we're going to go ahead and mount it up onto our brackets. And just remember, when you're doing this, it's important to note that the wider portion of the bar goes in the front and the thinner to the back. It can help to have a friend like we do today. We have Greg on the other side of the vehicle. He's just going to help us out and make sure that as we're feeding it over the rooftop, this doesn't drop and scratch anything up. And what I'm trying to make sure that I'm doing is getting it so that the pads come over the bracket just like that. It'll fit up into that cavity almost perfectly. And as you come down, you notice that your claws that we put together here are going to be grabbing onto that cavity in the bracket. So I'm going to be double checking that it's seated correctly on both sides before evening my bar space. Now, before I get everything tightened down, I did get up here and maneuver the bar back and forth to make it even on either side. The front bar is going to be at the hash mark A. The back bar was in between hash marks G and H. So now that we've got that spread, I've tightened it down so that it's gripping our brackets that we installed on the rails. We're going to go ahead and take our Thule tool, and we're going to use it right here. And what we're going to do, this is a torquing tool, so we're going to hear a nice loud pop when we've got it tight enough. Just like that. This simultaneously locks our claws onto our bracket while also locking our bar in place so it doesn't shift back and forth while we have cargo up here. And the final step of our installation is to place on our tower covers, which are simply going to slide over into place. And then we're going to use our flathead to lock them down. There we are, and that's it for the installation. Pretty simple. So there you have it, a very easy installation, which is definitely one of the pros of this roof rack. Now, there are a few things about it that aren't really my favorite. One of the things is that these rubber foot pads, they don't really lay flush on top of the rail, which is surprising to us because Thule generally gets a really good snug fit on here. Now, with a weight capacity of only 165 pounds, we're not worried about these coming off, and we're not worried about any weight you put up here breaking them, with any downward pressure. It's just it doesn't look very good, and that might actually create a little bit of extra road noise. Which brings me to my next point. We mentioned that the roof rack that we have up here and how it interacts with the sunroof, while the sunroof does open and it works just fine, when you get up to those like faster highway speeds, roof racks make noise, even the aero bars. Even though they make less noise than the round or square bars I mentioned earlier, it is going to create some. And I'm worried that this gapping under here is going to create maybe just a little bit extra. So while this should be fine on your normal road speeds, if you do get it up to highway speed, you might want to consider closing that sunroof just to reduce the noise as you're going down the road. The other thing about this particular set is the Grand Cherokee is a tall vehicle. So unless you're a very tall person yourself, one of the advantages of having a rack that overhangs is that you can kind of shift your gear side to side and closer to the edge of the vehicle for easier access. When we have a flush mounted system, we're kind of forced to put everything toward the middle. So while it does create a cleaner look, in a lot of aspects, it can be a little bit less practical. But since you do have to kind of put it toward the middle, sometimes even getting up here into the door threshold, while it might be enough to kind of get up into a roof box and feel around, you can't really see inside of it, and it's not going to help you out when it comes to actually mounting it. In those cases, I want to recommend this nifty little tool. It's called a Moki doorstep. It's available right here at etrailer.com. And the way it's going to work is it's going to deploy, hook inside your door loop just like this, and it's going to give us 300 pounds weight capacity to step up and really be able to access that cargo up here, or just get it mounted or unmounted. So with all that being said, I do think this is still an excellent roof rack system for your Grand Cherokee 4xe, but I do want you to be aware of some of the limited drawbacks that it has. Mainly to me, it's going to be that cargo access and kind of being forced to go to the middle of the vehicle. But with all that being said, excellent choice still for you and your Jeep Grand Cherokee 4xe. I'm Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.